Welcome to Sound Ceremony, the ancient art of sound healing in our modern day world.
We are on a journey to take our sound ceremony to the main stage.
In this podcast, we dive deep into sound healing, ceremony, raving, and the dance music industry.
Expect intimate conversations with artists who share their stories behind the intention and inspiration of their tracks. I'm Eva.
I'm Lisa.
Welcome to Sound Ceremony. Thank you so much for being here.
It's so nice to be here. I feel grateful for having the opportunity to share all this with you guys.
Yes. Today we have Sebastian, also known as Sebas, and his artist name is Bastiansé.
But
Bastiansé.
there you go. Perfect.
Yeah, Bastiansé. I had to say Beyonce in my head. Bastiansé.
It's perfect.
Joining us from Ecuador. We're so excited to have you here and dive into what you're so passionate about, which is art and music. So thank you for being here.
It's a pleasure to be here. I'm excited to talk and be super honest and a little bit vulnerable as well.
Yes, that's what the space is. This is Sound Ceremony podcast, and here at Sound Ceremony, we start every podcast as a ceremony with intention and meditation. So I invite you, Sebas, and Eva, and our audience to join us in this space. If you are not operating machinery or a vehicle, close your eyes, soften your gaze, and begin to connect with the spirit of your breath. If you inhale and exhale, place one hand on your heart, one hand on your belly. And exhale all of your air out completely. Inhale through your nose, so all the way up. Exhale out your mouth and be out. Inhale through your nose, fill up your belly, chest, fill up your throat, fill up all the way to the crown of your head until you can't fill up anymore. Exhale, sigh. Make some noise. Breathe out. Just begin to take some very slow, fluid breaths in and out through your nose. Allow your exhales to carry any tension you may be holding in your body. Allow it to be released through the sighs into the earth beneath. As you breathe, feel the deep connection with the rhythm of your breath, the rhythm of spirit flowing through you, with the gentle rise and fall you feel in your belly and your chest. Begin to draw your awareness inward more and more with each full breath. Scan the inner landscape of your being. Notice what's alive. What color that may be. Breathe into that feeling. Whatever the feeling that's alive within you, greet it with the energy behind the smile. Smile. And notice what shifts within you. As we drop into this present moment, we are gifted the space to set an intention. May we be open to receive and share whatever comes through. May be shared from our heart. the soul and ripple out into the world in a way that elevates the world. And may it be for the good of all and harm to none. And if there are any other intentions you'd like to set, set them now. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Breathe out through your mouth. Rest your hands on your lap. Blink your eyes open. And allow the ceremony to carry forward. Thank you for sharing that space with us. Intention is such a powerful thing where when you allow yourself to pause and reflect and be present, you're able to receive what's aligned. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things that we can witness and also share.
Yeah, and intention is huge in general for how we act in life, right? For me personally, intention is how we do, how we be. So, like, the purpose behind every action we take is the intention. For speaking in terms of, for example, yoga, if you just go and stretch without any type of intention, you still get the benefits of it. But if you sit down and say, okay, I want to be present, I want to be super concentrated with my breath, it becomes in another practice just by putting that intention. It's like we put the energy of the spirit into working towards what we truly, want to reflect on or what we want to accomplish. When we don't have intention, we're moving on this autopilot move, like I catch myself, for example, running upstairs super fast, and then I got there and I wanted to get there so fast, and I didn't even, I was in the autopilot mode. I didn't even know how many steps I took, how many floors. It's just like without the intention. We don't put that energy,
Yeah, it definitely is and it's so easy. The pause doesn't take long. It's not complicated, but by just starting to create a practice of a pause, you can then infuse that into every action. And you didn't have to stop and do a huge thing when you realized you weren't present. You weren't like, all right, now I got to journal and do yoga and do this and do that. No, you're just like, wait, I need to be present. And there you go. It's a practice that sometimes it's like, I'm training a puppy right now. And I have to remind myself that our minds are like puppies, right? So in the beginning, when we start doing a mindful practice or learning about that intention, it's just simple. I'm just correcting her at the same time. Don't do that. Be present. Stop it. Gently and nicely, but sometimes just a little firmly. And it just takes a moment. And then we come back. So yeah.
And I think the universe is going to constantly throw something at us to wake us up to be present. We were just talking about this yesterday about the puppy, and I was like, oh yeah, I experienced that in a harder way, where I was thinking about something that didn't matter. The only moment that really mattered was walking outside with my dog, feeling the cold, looking at the cars, crossing the street. And instead I'm just like, I don't know what the thought was that pulled me out. And all of a sudden I took a really bad fall and face planted into the sidewalk or into the street and started crying. I was like, oh, that hurts so bad. But sometimes it takes things like that where you fall or God forbid, you get in an accident because you're on your phone, or I feel like the call gets louder and louder and louder the more you're not present.
Autopilot, yeah.
Yeah.
Or overthinking as well, making false scenarios in the head of something that happened. Maybe it happened because of this, and then you create a movie that does not exist anywhere else that inside your head, and that can change, the feelings that we had before about that. And that's also the present, right? And then there's the future, and then there's the past. So being stuck in the memory or the imagination, that also sometimes takes away the true intention of what we're doing. It's okay to drift off in meditation sometimes when you're breathing, because I think it's part of it, because it's information. But if you are, meditate for 1 hour of pure constantly thinking, you're not trying to meditate, you're just thinking, and that's like the opposite role.
Yeah, you're not observing. The meditation is that step behind the thoughts, and you like watch them like a movie, and you remind yourself to come back and let them go. Just let them go away and don't react.
Like clouds.
Yes, yeah, it's like clouds.
Yeah, it's a beautiful tool that you can use to create space between like the thoughts, the feelings, the experiences, and what you truly are. Soham, I am. Like that is it. There's nothing else that follows that I am but pure consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, a gentle reminder that we get to learn from all the time. But I really do think that presence can be a portal to something else. Like when you get into the present moment, you set that intention, and that intention can lead to creating something really beautiful, like an art piece or a composition, because you allowed yourself to drop in into the present moment, feel what's alive, and then you took that feeling and create it from that place, right? I think as artists, that may be something that we all relate to.
Yeah, I mean, intention is manifestation, right?
Yeah, it's definitely the beginning. It's how you direct your manifestation. So just like I loved how you said you were, you talked about it being working with spirit. So when you set yourself at that pause, you put out the energy into the world and you say, hey, I want to play with you in this way. And then spirit answers. And if you stay present, you can constantly be guided that way. And that is the way that things end up being manifested, is because you allow yourself to be open to the spirit and universe opening up the pathway before you. And creation is the same way. We're tapping into the language of the universe in some capacity, receiving a download, and then using the tools that we've sharpened to create whatever it is to create. We can force a lot of things. We can make things happen really, really hard work. But working with intention and working with spirit and is the softening into the receiving. So it's the quiet space. Yeah. There's a lot of, there's not as much banging your head against the wall. And so, yeah. What is your creative process like?
There are so many. Now, currently, I am not listening to music at all. I'm just, trying to drive without music, trying to work maybe with a, healing frequency specific, like binaural beats and stuff. But I'm trying not to listen to music right now to see what I really want to do with, the couple of tracks I have there. I'm going to start a record label soon. So I'm still, deciding which ones follow the purpose of the label, the colors and stuff. But other times it's going to dance a lot, in a festival with friends, or meditation, quieting the mind. I just graduated from my master's, so my head was everywhere, reading a lot of academia, and it was difficult. So I didn't have a lot of silence. But now that I have this time to figure out what I'm going to do, it's all about now being super quiet. And I like that quietness, because that's when the true, feelings come out. It's when you have space to allow the information of emotions to come through. But when I'm DJing or producing, it's different creative process. DJing is flow state. I'm considered to have ADHD, which I don't even believe in that. I think it's just a classification for people that do not like to follow rules and are highly creative.
Well, I would like to say that, like, I don't mind having the classification of it, but I think that if the way our brains work is that there's two parts of our mind are active at the same time, which allow us to bring in a lot of information. And everyone doesn't think that way. And I didn't realize that. But then I didn't understand that everyone else wasn't thinking the way that I did. And it's a superpower, I guess, is the way that I like to think about it. But then I think what you're finding is that when we bring in so much information, we have to create a lot of space for us to assimilate. We have to put it all together. And I think for me, I also need quiet sometimes to do that. I need to be able to like kind of soak it in, and then I'm able to do something with it. So yeah, I do think that like we don't like to follow rules. But it's because our brains don't follow the same, it's not working the same way. So I don't know.
It's more difficult to control people with ADD or ADHD, or to make them follow this path. No, you need to do your financial reports this way. It's like, no, I want to do it the other way.
We were just talking about this. It's called it's for neuro. So I like rather, instead of saying ADHD, I'm neurodivergent, meaning that my brain just works slightly different, right? And there's something called, what was it called? What did I say earlier? It's called, it's demand avoidance. So basically it's when somebody tells you to do something some way, immediately you're like, but why? I want to do it a different way. And your brain's and also the other thing about it is because we take in so much information, when someone presents us with only one path, we like immediately look at the path and understand that there's 47 other paths that you could take, and there's probably a better one. And then we don't want to be in a box. And that's how I kind of like understood. It is a difficult like learning curve when you're like in school, or depending on what jobs and stuff that you do, because you're constantly bucking the rules. Like you're like, but why? I want to work smarter, not harder. So I think that's I think we just see different pieces, and we want to put them in places, and someone's told us not to. And we're like, going to. Maybe.
Yeah, no, I definitely resonate, especially when DJing, right? There's all these master classes, and like, you need to do this. This is how you beat match, and I never thought about it that way. It changed a lot, because when I was 11, I started to DJ in Ecuador until I was 17, and then moved to the United States and stopped doing I used to DJ for weddings and private clubs and private events. But in the United States, I started college, became invested in the residencies in the university, and then started to get into more of a house music techno scene. So that changed completely, because it's different to DJ for the people or to make your own stuff and just purely express what you want to. And in that creative expression, that's where the ADHD or ADD is beautiful, because you can hyper focus. People would talk to me, I'm like, no, I don't care. Like, you tell me anything, I am doing this, and I have these 5 minutes is gonna do this, and then this a cappella, and then these sounds are gonna go with this, and it's pure flow. Like, it's not like, okay, I'm gonna plan, this track goes first, and this, it's just I go through the playlist, and something catches my eye, okay, that's it, and I didn't like it, okay, change it. But my setup is hybrid, so it is with like also Ableton, and
nice.
a synthesizer and a drum machine. So it's all over the place, and that's where the ADHD is perfect, because I'm kind of focused but hyperactive at the same time.
I totally understand. Yeah, sorry. The delay.
The delay, yeah. But producing is the other way around, because you need to sit down and you need to kind of have a plan to what is going to happen out of this, because then you just It's like DJing when you end up having like a super complex track that's not simple anymore. It's even complicated to mix because it has 40 elements to it and it's super complex. And if you mix that with another track, it's overpowering and it's not very easy to mix. And it's because I want to create that feeling of when I am mixing the 3 tracks and the drum machine, and that feeling of like complex grooves like Romanian minimal. I don't know if you're familiar with that genre. Like really, 16 bar grooves instead of techie house or more commercial house of like 2 4 bar loops of grooves. It's more of a call response, like a little bit hypnotic. So the creative process differs so much every time. Right now, currently, as I said, silence is the way.
Yeah. Well, because you're creating when I will dive like into a lot of music, I'll I almost get drunk on music and I listen to so many mixes. And then there's a point where I'm just like, nothing. So, and when I've overloaded myself in my stimulation, like then I do actually just put frequencies in my ear, just like you said, or I just sometimes just wear my headphones in my ear to like dull out the noise, because if I have like done a rhythmic metamorphosis practice or whatever, I've already like elevated my own frequency, so I'm kind of almost buzzing with whatever my body's feeling. And so I do understand that, because I need that space. And then the hyper focus is so amazing too, though, because you dive into like this, and it like time is just so different. And it also like you're moving so fast, but you can feel the elements and you can put everything in the different places. So I do resonate exactly with what you said. The silence is necessary for sure. So,
and through like being silent, like silence and not receiving something from like an external stimuli, you can then tap into your internal like voice, and that's like your body, and your body is what has the most profound wisdom that is unique to you and is so authentic to you. And when you start to create from that place, like nothing can match that because it's your own. So yeah, I definitely find myself too, like where I do burn myself out on like listening to a lot of music where I was like, I want nothing but silence, or I just want to go outside and listen to the breeze brushing against the trees, the birds, a couple cars honking their horns. And then all of a sudden you get this like download of like something you want to create because you just took the time to just be with what actually is.
And it's difficult to find that state because we, of course, have traumas and we have, some toggled emotions and that we never dealt with. And then sitting there, it's like, might hurt in the heart, might hurt in the hips, might hurt in the head. And it's brave to be to have the intention to be present and be silent. It's difficult. It's not easy. I'm pretty sure you girls know that it's not easy.
No, because like our nervous system can be very dysregulated, and that's what causes us to like fight or flight the moments where we're put to be with ourselves in silence. And if you don't know how to sit with yourself and what tools to use, that can be very detrimental. But I think it's such a gift, it's such a privilege to be able to self-regulate and have the tools of being able to use your breath and somatic practices. Plug in music when like you can use music to help you self-soothe in moments, and like
of course
then you start to integrate and you step back out into the world without constantly using music, but using like your own body, like placing your hands on your heart, slowing down your breath, being present, looking around. It's like, oh, okay, like in this moment, I'm actually safe to soften and rest my chest. Because disturbance is really important, because you don't want to always be in that state, because there are times where you actually need to like fight and flight, right?
Yeah, actually, I have a question for you girls. Have you ever experienced a time, either in work or in leisure or in a yoga class or in the bus, anywhere, where you actually get in touch with that emotion that you've been trying to reach or untap when the meditation or the yoga or the tai chi, whatever you do, and you're in the metro, and it's like, oh my god, I need to cry, or I want to hit something, or I want to release. But you're like, oh, it's not the time. And you just shove it down again, and now it's even harder to let it out next time. You know?
Yeah. Yes, that has happened to me. I'm trying to think if it's happened recently and what I've done.
I
but
shake.
Yeah,
I
shaking.
shake. I'll find, I will do, this is something that I'll do in public, which is because obviously like self-regulation, some of this, a full extent is like something that's hard to do, but so shaking, just shaking your entire body like animals do, or just my hands. Shaking is a way to regulate your nervous system. It's like screaming without your voice. And I use shaking. I have definitely deep sighs. I stopped caring what people think a long time ago. I will use tapping, but I won't do the full tapping. I'll either tap my heart and deep breathe, or like tap my forehead a little bit and deep breathe. And so those are like the ones I definitely tried to allow. I try to use that I will do in public. This is a good one to do in public too. This is tapping the inside of your palms, like, so it's not like, because obviously like people, like there is a point of the reason why you don't want to like feel your emotion is because it feels really invulnerable. But I also like, now if I have to cry, I'm going to cry. I'm going to go sit down someplace and I'm going to cry. Like if it comes up and I'm going to cry, I would rather spend 90 seconds with whatever just came up and let it out. And if I just like, obviously on a bus isn't ideal, but I've definitely cried in public before. Just like, you know what I mean? I don't want to shove it back down. I want it to come up and out, and I want to be able to experience, and breathe. And we spend so much time shoving that back down, and it only needs 90 seconds to come up for you to actually feel into it and for you to let it go. And the more that you actually realize that it will not last that long, if you actually let yourself do it, then you'll be like, you've seen kids. When you watch children, how many times have you seen a kid? And if you teach a kid how to emotionally regulate, they'll be like, ah, and then they're like, okay, I'm better.
Sometimes you just have to scream, and like while you're also like like say you're on the bus and like and you start screaming, like I think there's like a level of discernment where like the time might not be the place, so screaming might not be it, but you know what I can do is I can or hum. And I also work at a bar, and there are moments where I get really anxious there, and like I just want to like crawl in a hole and hide, but I can't do that, and that's not the answer. But knowing like what anxiety is and what tool I can use to self-regulate in that moment, humming has been a very great practice for me, because it stimulates the vagus nerve, which is like the biggest nerve that runs down through the center of your body. And when you stimulate that, you activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest digest. And anxiety is activates the sympathetic, which is fight or flight. So in those moments, like I want to go crawl because I want to flight. I want to run away from the thing that's making me anxious. But it's like, hold on a second, look around. In this moment, it's safe to soften, to rest and digest. Here's the tool that I can use real quick, and hum, and then tap. I am safe here and now. And all of a sudden that belief, that thought pattern that was like, you're not safe, you need to run away right now, there's a bear behind you. It's like you interrupt that thought pattern and you transform it into an empowering belief that's like, you know what, I am safe here now, and now I can release this emotion by resting and digesting, humming, slowing down my breath. And honestly, no one asks me what you're doing. They just look at me and they go on with their day, just like I went on with my day.
Yeah.
So I think like the biggest question is like, does this action require abandoning myself? Does this choice I make require abandoning myself? And that's something I constantly ask myself. Like, does not expressing my emotion right now do me harm or good? And you have it right there.
But what if you express it too much?
What would be too much?
I was speaking with a therapist, and she told me that sometimes, my personal ego feeds off of saying my problems so I could get the attention of being a victim. And that's how victimizing myself feeds my ego, right? So it's like, okay, I feel sad, right? I feel heartbreak. I feel this, and then you keep on going and keep on going and keep on going and say it out. You're like, it's like you like to feel the, oh, poor thing. So that's the.
So my personal belief with talking about your feelings is you are not feeling them. It's great to identify where you are and why you're there. So talking is a helpful, I'm not saying therapy is not good. Therapy is good in its place. But the way that I explain talking is that talking siphons off part of the emotion only, but it doesn't allow you to feel the emotion. It's like, imagine it's like a teapot. A teapot, your emotions are running really, 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 really high, and the teapot starts whistling and blowing steam. And all that you do when you talk is you just open up the top to stop it. You just made a little bit go down. So yes, you are staying in the same place because it actually didn't address the whole thing. If you're feeling sad, it's great that you yourself can identify the feeling, but then you have to sit with it and feel the feeling. You then have to express it some way, and you have to let it go. And it's not going to be through your words. It's going to be through your body, through your breath.
It has to be released through a movement. So like the humming is creating movement in your body. You're feeling the vibration, and like your cells are starting to vibrate, shake. Another one that I do sometimes, like I'll do that, and then I'm like, okay, like I feel like I want to move my body. Okay, so like move my body. So like I'll just like flick, and it's like literally just like visualizing that energy that felt stuck in me that needed to come up and out is literally just like flicking water off my hand coming out. And then sometimes I make a note that like, okay, that came up for me tonight. I'm going to do my rhythmic metamorphosis practice, and my intention is going to be to move through that experience that happened earlier in the day.
Yeah.
So that's where I kind of do a deeper dive into what may have come up. Because sometimes it might be like a really big thing where you feel like you need to purge it out, but you might not be in the place to do so. But definitely like some form of somatic movement to get it out is definitely like needed in my opinion and from my experience and understanding of what's going on in the brain and body and how to release it. For sure.
And I think that tapping is good for the circular thoughts, because what happens in the subconscious is our brains are so lazy. Our brains are super lazy. Our brain, if you think of our brains, what it likes to do is it likes to and so with us being neurodivergent, our brains are very active all the time. But what happens is the same thought pattern creates a highway in your brain. And so it's really, and it loves to travel that highway over and over again, loves to do that. And EFT tapping interrupts that thought pattern, that negative thought or whatever it is, especially if you're struggling with it. It interrupts it, and then you can redirect it. So you can start changing the highway that it's traveled, which starts changing and the same thing happens if you work with psychedelics. Psychedelics opens up your whole brain, lights it up. It allows new neural pathways to be formed so that you cannot have your brain travel the same highway every single time.
And that highway is the ego, right?
The highway, the ego definitely governs the highway for sure. It likes to tell you the false things, the stuff that we've picked up along the way. And I think talking just reinforces the ego. And I think that, like Lisa said, and this is not a blanket all. I'm not saying that what I say is the say all be all, but it's in our experience in our life, we have experienced this firsthand, that when we stopped doing certain things like talking and journaling exclusively and started moving our bodies and expressing and releasing, that was when the shift happened. Because prior to that, I was writing and journaling every single day of my life, and it wasn't helping. I was talking to my friends about all my problems, and it wasn't helping. All it did is allowed me to stay exactly where I was, because just like a teapot, it opened it up, released some of the steam, made it bearable. And then you refeed that energy, you circle that energy, but you don't do anything, you don't move, you don't change.
And with movement, you emptied it out.
Yes, and it allows you to actually like move. You think of it like the difference between taking a step or sitting here and saying the word. You haven't changed where you are, so you have to change where you are. Like think of it more like a physical thing. Like if you, not like literally, but like moving from here to there changes your environment, changes what's going on. Releasing something, letting something go changes the physical, the spiritual, the energetically. Talking about it reinforces what's happening. It's just the same thing.
Yeah. I also like these, like, the emotion is an energy in motion. It's movement, so it needs movement. And when you're talking, you're kind of only at one frequency. And when you're moving, you're tapping into all these different frequencies. Like your energy is going all over the place. And I also think that singing is a really beautiful form of movement where you're tapping into different frequencies. You're letting the voice like rise and fall, and it's very, you experience this catharsis with it, because you're tapping into all those different energy centers within yourself as you're vocalizing what you're feeling, but in a harmonious way. Like, and sometimes like it can be noisy at first, and it can be like off tune, but then you fine tune it the more and more and more you allow yourself to feel. So that definitely has been really helpful, and it's something that we incorporate in rhythmic metamorphosis. And they say it's like speaking is the voice of the human, like that's how we communicate, through words. But singing is the voice of the spirit. And that's where you kind of realize that it's not about me, what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling. Like I'm just experiencing it, I'm just witnessing, and really I'm the spirit itself. That's all I am at the core of my being, right?
Definitely.
Kind of reminds us of that. Do you have any type of practice that you start your day with to kind of like set that tone for your day?
Yeah, I have been practicing yoga for 6 years now. And last summer I went to Nepal and got my yoga teacher training certificate in Hatha. And yeah, I mean, I do it a lot. It's my way to regulate and be. I mean, I like pranayama, like breathing exercises, but I feel like combined with the movement, it's more powerful. If you through the practice, you have some breaks of pranayama. It's amazing, especially like breath of fire or like retention of the breath. Like after doing like certain movements, then you inhale, hold. That's amazing. But also what I've been practicing more every day is I've been trying to make life a meditation instead of just being in meditation. Like be, first thing that I try to tune to is the breath. Be listening to my breath all day, because I do have a lot of thoughts. I do have a lot of creativity that needs to be channeled. And yeah, of course, I like to play music, and I also play the guitar. I work with the sound healing. The bowls, the Tibetan bowls, using 7 different metals for vibroacoustics and psychoacoustics, and it's all just teach me patience and presence. That's what my spiritual practice is about. So when I do it in the morning, it's like I put the high octane gasoline into the car. I perform better. I'm in tune with what I started in the day. I'm clear. But if I wake up and immediately I'm late for class or work or whatever, it's very important to also have that 90 seconds, as you were saying, to just go back to the breath. And sometimes, I mean, I feel a lot emotions, like I feel a lot. So sometimes it's very difficult to disassociate from the feelings, especially like in terms of love. I feel a lot. So yeah, tapping. I try to do tapping, and I've tried to do, as you said, a lot of different types of movement and chanting and sound healing, and sometimes it doesn't work. You just need to be patient with it and continue to do it. And you probably know that if you meditate for 10 minutes a day for a month, it'll be more powerful than if you meditate an hour a day every 3 days. Like that constant build up, build up, build up. But I grew up from a religious family from both sides. It's Christian, Catholic, and I was never very attuned with the religion. I think I learn a lot from different types of religions, and I like to investigate from it. There's beautiful things from Judaism. There's beautiful things from Buddhism. Complex stuff that makes sense in Hinduism. I mean, it's all information, right? And what I don't resonate with is encapsulating it, like, oh, you just need to do this. Like, this is the only way to do it. So that's when I started to investigate in my spiritual practice. It all started with a depression I had in my freshman year of college because I moved from Ecuador to Florida. I used to be the DJ here, and my identity, everybody knew it. And then I went there, and I started from zero, which is great. But at the time I was blind. I was like, oh, nobody knows me. Nobody likes me. I want to go back. And then I started to, I've always been very active in terms of, I played soccer. I surf, and I work out. But then I started to practice yoga. I do just, YouTube videos, and I started to notice how much more present I was, it's like put grease into the squeaky wheel, and you attune it's like you live better, right? But then also spirituality, being more aware, also opens a lot more reality. You're a lot more, I wouldn't say suffering, but definitely it's not. Life is easier for the naive, for the people that don't choose to know all the new information.
You can't go back to sleep once you wake up.
Yes, you can, but you're gonna be miserable, right?
You'll just fight it. It's like you're constantly going to be battling the fact that it is. So that there's definitely when you wake up, there's definitely a road to waking up that's difficult to travel because you're faced with the darkness and the light and the everything. And so, yeah, totally understand. Yeah.
And it feels really lonely
Mm.
because you're ascending, and the people around you, if they're not on that same path, you have to let go of it. You no longer relate to those people or to those things. And as humans, we're made to connect. Like, that's how we survive, is like through connection. And when you're not able to connect with people around you, it feels really, really hard.
Yeah, I went through that phase of being like, oh, did you notice this, and can you see the love, whatever? And people were like, what are you doing? Like, what happened? Like, you should, are you okay? And they got a lot of judgment. And at the moment I took it very personal, and then I was like, oh, maybe I am crazy. And just life keeps on telling you synchronicities and signs that you're in the right path. And it's sad, but yeah, I mean, a lot of friends let go, and I also let go. But I feel like you just shed off people that don't want the best for you. Maybe you're not the best thing for them. It's just growing, I guess, right?
Yeah, you're walking a different path, and not everybody is meant to walk the same path with us the whole time that we're here. And there's definitely that moment when you realize you start walking down, like if you visualize what that looks like, that is like, to me, it looks like, so you're leaving this crowd of everything that
Mm-hmm.
It's like being an explorer.
Mm-hmm.
I always ask myself, if I would be brave in a different lifetime, would I get on that boat not knowing where that boat was going? Would I sail to the new world? And like, that's what we're doing in this lifetime, but in a different way. And if you visualize what that looks like, there is going to be that moment of in between that is hard because you are on that boat. Maybe there's new people on the boat, but you don't know them yet. So there's not as connection. You're leaving the past, the old behind. It's changing, and it feels very scary because it's uncertain, it's new. But if you that's why like when you are waking up, working with like visualization instead of imagination is really important. But you have to understand the difference between the two things, because imagination is your ego playing tricks on you, and it's usually bad things. Visualization is that future that you yourself know that exists and that you're putting forward with intention, and you're co-creating with the universe. So having your vision of where you're going makes you feel a little more safe because you have a direction. It's like a destination that you're going to. So if you're sailing this boat, just like the explorers, they were like, we're going to a new land. They had a destination. They knew, they believed in that. And so when you're believing in something, your purpose or whatever allows you to guide you there. So, but it's tough.
And how do you know the difference between imagination and visualization? Like, how can you be aware of that?
Imagination is always asking what's going to go wrong. And imagination is really easy to do because imagination just is like, usually imagination is daydreaming, the way that I had explained, like in the beginning terms, imagination is daydreaming. Visualization, you have to actually work hard at visualization. Visualization is like this like tool that you have to practice. Imagination, we all have imagination from the time we were born. Like we are like, and it's usually, if things are going wrong, that's imagination. Just ask yourself right there, like that's the biggest thing. Imagination is always going to be like, what's going wrong? When you're visualizing, you're not visualizing anything bad. So that's the way that I know. I know that there's probably like a deeper, we could talk a little deeper into it, but the easiest way.
Because you trust.
Yeah.
And it's rooted in intuition.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're the what ifs, that's imagination. Your visualization is your goal, your dream. It's that painting that you're painting that like you have to focus on. And it is like, it's much more of like, it's less of a movie, but more of like a painting, I kind of think of. Yeah. Like it's not like a visualization for me. In the way that I've worked with it, they're more of like, there's like moments, and it's not something that I hold on to long. When I'm starting to play a really long story, and then like weird things start happening, or like if it's never like this beautiful euphoric feeling, I know that I don't think I'm visualizing anymore. So yeah, I think that.
Lisa, you said something about faith. I feel like personally, the spiritual path that I have taken these last years has been learning how to have faith in order to make your manifestations work, to be in that surrender process of just living, just being, to enjoy life more. How can you describe faith? How to have faith?
Faith. So I would say we talked about this in the breakup book that we wrote, but so there's hope where like you see the light at the end of the tunnel, right? But you know that the space in between is really dark. And then you have this like this doubt of like not knowing how to get there. But faith means that you like trust that the hope is attainable. So faith, I believe, is rooted in trust and understanding that you can get to that light.
It's unwavering knowing.
It's unconditional. It's unconditional trust. That's what faith is.
It's crazy, but when I am thinking of doubting myself or my dreams or losing friendships or losing a partner, it's when I visualize and then I'm like, okay, I trust that everything will fall in wherever it's supposed to be, and I'm just living the process, and I have faith, I trust that it'll be okay. It's like immediately, like the vibration of my thoughts, it's like they glow a little bit brighter, and the negative ego, I would call it, the destructive part of the ego, it just goes away, at least for a little bit, like for wild. Just that's now one of my weapons. Faith.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think it's also like knowing that no matter what choice you make, you're divinely guided. Like you are part of something much greater, and having faith in yourself is having faith in the universe, and you're constantly in this dance with it.
It's also like a surrender. There's an element of surrender with faith, because when you are trying to control everything, that's your ego. Your ego is trying to like control the result, control, I only want this thing, right? Like in the example of the breakup book, when you lose a partner, you have built this entire world and reality around this one person, and then your ego is telling you all of these terrible things, like you're never going to be happy again, you're never going to do this or whatever. Like it's this negative feed because it's changed so much. But you definitely just have to let go of the fear, let go and understand that it's all going to work out. But you can't have like you can't control it. You have to surrender. And the way that I like to explain what surrender is if you take and put water in your hands and you hold it. Surrender is opening up your palms to the ground and letting the water flow out. You can't grab it back. It's gone. Surrendering is letting go, and it's letting go willfully. You're not like, I'm gonna, like, surrender is not like, it's not just force. Yeah. You're just like, yeah, it's
a prayer.
Yeah.
You can't attach yourself to the thing. Like that's the ego wants to attach, wants to cling, hold on for dear life and control and drive it. But like you have to just throw your hands up, let the water flow out. And
I mean, even, if you do that, if you think about like, even if like, and whenever that's something that I incorporate in the classes that I teach still with yoga, is like, if you do that in your practice, if you imagine and you let go the feeling that occurs with this versus this, because fear and control feels like this. This is very difficult, right? This is hard to maintain. It's very tight. It's very, very hard.
Energy
it's
draining.
harsh. Yes. Surrender. Surrender is this exhale.
I also think that's part of like the creative process. So when you're creating something, like there's intention, it manifests, and then you share it with the world. And after that, it's not yours. It was never yours to begin with. You were just the conduit, the vessel that received the insight, the energy, and then through you, it was created, and now it's out into the world in collective consciousness for someone else to breathe in and receive themselves, right?
Definitely. Like letting go of like, oh, I did that, that's mine, but like being like, okay, now it's for everybody, you know, let's enjoy it together.
Yeah. And we're human. Like I'm not gonna sit here and say that I don't have moments where I'm like, I did that, and then I'm like, oh, okay, no, co-created with spirit.
We definitely went through a big learning curve, because when we first started together co-creation, we understand the letting go of ego and letting go of fear and trusting and like surrendering, because it even though we're doing it all the time with creation, we don't actually think about it that way, right? But because when Lisa and I started creating together, we had to work through our egos, right? Because we had pieces that were ours that we did by ourselves. We didn't really do it by ourselves. We were tapping into the universe, right? But we downloaded that by ourselves at that moment. And until we worked through the ego of fear and letting go, there were moments where it was like mine, mine, mine. And it's not mine. It's not mine. It's ours.
Collectively. That makes it even more powerful.
Yes, and then you release it to be shared, and that is a beautiful, beautiful feeling. It's such a beautiful feeling. I think that's, maybe you resonate with it. I think that's why music is so powerful, and making music is so powerful, because you can touch so many people, right? Like you can share this language of the universe, and allow it to touch who needs to hear it. right? And maybe it won't be everyone. Not everyone is going to be like in the state of that reception. They're not going to be tuned in, but maybe some of people are. Maybe someone will resonate it. Maybe somebody will create a new story with it. But that's the beautiful thing about creation, is it's constantly. But if you think of like the universe is in a state of constantly creating. Like the universe is never ending. It's going. So even your creation is expanding afterwards, but not with you anymore.
When you let go.
When you let go. It's like, so just think of like your track being remixed.
Yeah, exactly. And if you don't like that remix,
it's fine. That's not yours. It's a different interpretation, right?
Epiphany is coming.
Yeah. I don't know.
Can you share more about your music? Maybe anything that you're working on right now or have recently released?
Yes. So I started DJing when I was 11, right? But I always had these, like, I would make remixes in my head since I was little. My dad is a huge inspiration, and my grandpa, because they are both audiophiles. My dad is also a DJ. My grandpa used to make like custom-made speakers for him, for his own, studio. He's like crazy into like specific details, and I think I inherited that blood. And that's why I'm, daydreaming in the middle of a class about making this track, in my head. And I have the track in my head. But then I was like, okay, I need to do it, like, okay, I need to put this in, materialize, manifest into materialization. And in COVID, which actually was a great place for my life because I got a pause. I was fortunate enough to have a pause. And all my roommates at the moment in college left. I was by myself, and I said, might as well, try to make music. And it is, the learning curve is, and then it starts up. But I don't know if you girls have tried to produce any time or make music, but at the beginning, it's, especially if you don't have classes, I prefer to do it that way. Just touch and see what sounds good, what doesn't sound good, and then maybe get a class and then work with that. But after 2.5 years of not going anywhere, it's finally started to get somewhere. And that's when I realized that my favorite genres to make is the style of minimal with the elements of organic house and the construction of a progressive house track. So I now try to, well, I try, if I try to make something else, it ends up being that. But as I was saying earlier, first I would, put so many elements, like as if you are mixing 3 tracks at the same time. It sounds great, but it's like all over the place. It's not. The reason why it sounds good when you're mixing so many tracks is because you have the individual sounds that stand out from each track that make the groove, the new groove that you made. But when you make that, there are some tracks like that, especially as I was talking earlier, this Romanian minimal sound is very complex, like a lot of stuff going on. There are tracks that have been, in my opinion, meant to be played individually so you can appreciate it. In fact, if you try to mix it, like there's something going to come in and it's going to like be a little bit off personally. But I am working on a record label, and its purpose is to create a community of similar-minded people that are interested in nature conservation, so sustainable development, mental health awareness, and the creative expression of music and art. Not only music, but also like poetry or stories. So I want to be able to collaborate a lot of different artists that have the same interest in expanding the consciousness and self-help and self-awareness. So each release will have, for example, 3 tracks, and then behind that track you have like kind of a narrative of just powerful cultural spiritual texts created by people in the community, and also the visual art that follows the idea of this, music. And it's rooted out to, what the Phrygian scale is, by any chance? It's a scale that's used in techno and flamenco.
Okay.
It's that mystery, like kind of sexy vibe to it. That combined with the desert house. I don't know if you're familiar with like desert house, which is it's organic / deep house / progressive house, with those elements of like being lost in the desert, like mystical, like miragey vibes. So that's what I'm going through now. And yeah, I have probably like 15 tracks ready to be released there, but I want to have a proper idea to it, because my personal experience with other labels has not been the best in terms of, they sometimes don't pay what you're meant to, or they hide off stuff, or they don't help you share what, marketing and stuff. Even they don't create any content. So I said, you know what, instead of giving that music away they have control to do whatever they want, I actually want to create a community where I'm not the boss, but I'm part of the community. It's all for mutual benefits. So I have 2 names for it. I'm not sure which one is. I would like your opinion. One is Phrygian Alchemists, and the other one is Akashic Records.
Oh,
Nice. They're both beautiful names.
I like Akashic Records.
Yeah.
That's like very.
Well, you're telling stories.
Yeah.
You said the way that you described it was like telling stories and working with communities and conservation. It sounds like that you want to tap into the like creative forces and the communities of people of like where you pull the elements. So Akashic Records kind of feels like you're telling a story and also like tapping into like the anthropology a little bit of the area. So
That's super cool.
yeah, that's a beautiful story too. Like it's a beautiful story of like the creation of like where you're coming down with this idea and the fruition of it, right? Because those are all things that we need in this world. We need more focus and collaboration and community to help elevate the world. And so create music is something that can do that. And there's definitely people that want to be able to focus their energy when they create something into helping. So that is like, right? Like, so regardless of like music is still music, it's still this beautiful thing that you've created. But if you can put a purpose behind it, it's absolutely, it elevates it and it helps it expand the world, the consciousness of the world.
And also removing the purpose of monetization only, like that
That's
is
ego.
nice, beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely, because it's not just about the money. Obviously is the way that we need money to survive, right? Like that's one of the currencies of our world. But absolutely, yeah, putting something else, an intention behind it, that it's not only monetization is definitely like is beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. So yeah.
You mentioned that you have 15 tracks ready to go. Are these all produced by you?
For the label. Then
Yeah.
after that, let me check. There are 94.
Wow.
That's amazing.
I'm proud, yes. But some are like edits, for example. Like, are you familiar with dub edits?
Yes.
I love dub edits. So that's basically just turning off a little bit of volume from all the other elements and then giving a lot of more space to the sub bass. And there's acid remixes, with acid house music sounds, and there's the progressive. Are you familiar with All Day I Dream? We have the dreamy edit with like positive, happy vibes. Normally, I try to use the minor scales and to make this underground feel. But sometimes, I send it to a friend and they're like, "Oh, what if you do this?" I'm like, "It's a great idea," and I do it and I send it to them. And it's for them. But I have sent some of these tracks to one of my favorite labels and haven't gotten any secure release from these, and sometimes they only want one, and I see actually it's part, they go together, you know. For example, the Anima and Animus EP that I have with Tonic D Records in Greece is describes a Jungian psychology, and for me personally, each track represents something. For example, one is the Anima, which is the female psyche element of the male soul or body, and then the Animus is the male psyche of the female body, and then the other track is with Alan Watts talking about introspection and about the shadow. So I wouldn't like to release these individually. They're like part of one, you know.
They're
And
telling a story.
Exactly. And that they had the intention behind it. You know, it's supposed to be, you know, you listen to this one, and then this one has kind of maybe a similar percussion groove in the back, but completely different track. And it's like part of an EP, you know, like an extended play of a track. And I've had a couple of times when they're like, "Oh, I only want this one." I said, "But it's part of it, you know. Well, you can't leave them alone." And so
That's absolutely beautiful.
Can you share what was going on when you received this insight to create that track EP that you were just talking about, the anima, the animals, and the plots?
I was in a period of my life where I was very identified with two of my personality traits, which is the yogi, Sebas, and Bastiansé. These were like these solid identities I had, and I was grabbing too much of them. Especially, you know, people say, "Oh, have you met Sebas? He's a yoga instructor and he's a DJ." Every time. So they would always come up to me, "Oh, you are that, right?" But how about my other identities? You know, where's the golfer? Where's the surfer? Where's the sustainable advocate? Where's the, you know, the animal lover? Where's the trail guy? I mean, it's all part of one. So I was, you know, exploring the masculine, divine, feminine, and masculine energies. And I was reading a book. It's called Eastern Mind, Western Body. It's really, really good.
I have it. I read it. It's beautiful.
It's really good.
Yeah.
So it talked about the anima and animus of Carl Jung. And I said, I'm going to investigate about it. And they both resonated a lot with some tracks that I was in the making of. One was very feminine with some of my friends' vocals, and the other one was more like aggressive, more harsher sounds. And the third track is just like a more chill about, you know, Alan Watts talking about, you know, saying the truth.
And he says it so eloquently. He says it so beautifully that when you hear his words, you're like, I know that.
Yeah.
It's a soft really reality check.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a very great, and Jung as well. Like Carl Jung, I mean, his complexity of his stuff. I'm passionate about it, but I'm not fully, you know, studying it. It's just, you know, a little bit of information every now and then. But that EP had so much meaning to me, and when I spread it out, it was like people would tell me, like, I could see this, you know, thank you for putting the meaning behind it, you know? And it's different than when I just release, you know, some tracks and like, oh, this is some grooves, you know, enjoy it. Of course it's fun, but I don't know, I was like more proud of it. Like, I like what the result, I guess, and now that's why I wanted to do the label, because I wanted to have more purpose, intention.
I think the way that I would visually describe the difference is like when you talk to an artist and they're like, they talk about the reason why they made the art. So like the art has a lot of meaning and there's a lot of significance and it tells a story. Or there's this beautiful piece that you look at and it's just gorgeous and they put just emotion into it. And there's the two different things. Like when you're making a groovy dance track, that's just emotion, or just it's still very beautiful, but like you're just about the feeling, about feeling good, right? Feeling good on the dance floor is just one thing. But when you're telling a story, the story definitely is something so personal, and it's a journey that you're taking somebody through sound. So you definitely don't want to separate those things, for sure. It's just awesome. So yeah, it's gorgeous. Love it. Love it. Yeah, I do too.
I'm currently working on figuring out the sacred frequencies, scales, and stuff. And I personally don't like Western music theory, the box, right? Think like this. So me personally, I never liked it. I have nothing against people that use it because I can see the beautiful ways of doing it. But for example, through mantra chanting, you can find a groove, you can find a bass line, you can find a melody, you can find a pluck, you can find a pad, just like the way it goes up and down, up and then down. I feel like there's much more information there. For me, that's what I resonate with. So, for example, now I would make my bass lines to specific sacred hertz. For example, 32 is kind of almost the lowest frequency that we can hear, but that 32 really resonates in the room. Like it sounds louder just by being 32. 64, 88, say 77, and then for like pads and stuff, put 7,777 as a pad, and it'll like create this into it, like sound healing into. So imagine my overall vision is to be able to play, my tracks, and subconsciously, since there's a pad there in, 1,111 and then 432 with both binaural beats in each one, you're helping harmonize their energetic bodies just by playing. You're not even trying to, because it's like, I don't know, it's different.
It's resonance, yeah.
So that's
resonance
the goal.
is just, the resonance is creating, like, resonance can happen no matter what. It's just whatever is loudest. And so if you can create resonance of healing, then it's going to create that in whoever is around the sound. So that's what sound healing is. Yeah. So
it comes back to intention, where like my intention behind this creation, this track, is for it to be healing.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, when you set an intention, you want to manifest something. There's steps you need to take, right? There's things you have to let go of, sacrifices you need to make. One is the ego itself and not identifying with what you are creating. And it's like, what do I have to do for this to be healing?
Yeah.
I have to get out of my own way. I have to open my heart. I have to feel. I have to let that emotion rise through me and out. Because that emotion that you feel gets put into the music, right? And then you put it out into the world, and someone else is going to breathe that in and feel that and receive that. It's going to evoke an emotion from them. And when you
and it could be a totally different emotion, right?
Yeah. It can translate in a completely different way. But since the intention was so pure for it to be healing, I definitely believe that when they receive it, it's going to be healing, because they're feeling. And feeling is healing.
True.
Right?
Yes.
Feeling is healing. But we can also get stuck in the process of over feeling, like, and identifying with that feeling instead of like going through that feeling.
It's because you're in your head.
You can't think your way through
anything.
You have to feel your way through. And at some point, once you start to think about it, that means the ego is coming in and trying to hold on and attach and identify. I am sad. I am angry. I am happy. It's like, no, you are. I am consciousness. I'm witnessing this feeling, this thought that's coming through.
And it's going to pass, and I'm going to let it go.
Yeah. And then it has to be released. And you let it go.
Into the world and into the earth.
Into the earth. Yeah. The earth. That's the most important thing. And like, that's, whenever you're working with any energy, there has to be a destination for it, because Newton, energy cannot be created nor destroyed, right? But it can be transformed and transferred. So when you're releasing that energy or emotion or thought, like, the destination is earth, for the earth to transmute, because the earth is neutral. And yeah, I definitely think that's a very important nugget to carry. It's like into the earth, into the soil, for it to grow into something else, a beautiful flower, a beautiful tree. You never know, even if it's dark. it has a potential to bloom into
Yeah, the earth
a
is
lotus.
so dense. Yeah, the earth can accept that energy. It can accept it. It can send it where it needs to be sent and place it wherever it's going to be placed, whether it's to create a diamond and it needs to be stored for a longer period of time, or whether it's going to help, eventually fertilize the soil or help something else grow or feed a different bug or plant or whatever. So it's the earth is the place, the destination for it. I think we throw a lot of energy around back and forth to each other. So, and that's what talking does, right? Like talking is just transferring energy between two people, but it's the same energy. It's not, you don't feel it and send it someplace. And so, yeah, that's the difference. So you will get stuck if you are thinking. Thinking will make you stick every single time. And talking too. It's just, yeah, we all do it. We do it all the time. It is a great, we are like, our brains love it. Our egos love it.
Our egos love it.
Our egos love it. They want to be important. So,
yeah.
But our egos are not part of the consciousness. When you're in flow, your ego is not talking. And that's when you're receiving everything. So that's the best way I can describe it. Like if you know the difference, you know the difference.
Do you think that when you privatize these emotions to like kind of yourself, it could be grief, right? If you, instead of talking about it so much, you like sit with it, feel it, let it go, but you keep it to yourself. Do you think what do you think about that?
I think that there is a place for speaking and talking, but it is thinking, but it's very, very easy to get stuck. That's the issue. You described it. I don't think that we all want connection. And when we're going through something hard, we don't want to feel alone. And until we know that we are never alone and that we are our own source and we can get anything that we need from ourselves, because we weren't taught that as children. No matter what, at some point in time, there are things that we were not taught as little children. So we've carried those false notions through us. And as adults, when we're healing, we're unraveling all those to the bottom, to the core. And when you get down to the core, you realize that I am present, I am consciousness, and everything I need is within me. But when you're noisy and you haven't worked through all of that stuff, the talking helps you feel connected so you're not alone. But when you've worked with everything, you realize you are never alone. But it's a hard journey to get there, right? Like it's a very hard journey to get there. So I think that it's depending on where you are on the healing journey, talking about it might be something that you do need to do at that period of time. But the only reason I question talk therapy is if you're still in therapy 20 years from now, nothing's changed. Has it really worked? That's it. That's all I have to say. So I please world, it's not me saying don't go to therapy and don't talk. It is important. Talking is our way that we communicate things. And if that's the only way you do know how to communicate an emotion, you don't if you are holding your breath or holding the emotion inside of you and you don't know what to do with it, it's not good. So if the only thing you do know how to do is talk, it's still helping at some level. But you were describing about getting stuck, because you can get stuck. And so I just want to differentiate the two things.
It all comes back down to balance. Like it's not this or that. It's this and that. And how can these two things dance together? Like how can, like the talk therapy is this approach that like we glorify here in the West, but like there's also this body approach that they glorify in the Eastern world. So like bridging both so that we can appreciate both. They both have a time and place for everything. And I think that's harmony itself. It's like what you hear in music. They're both dancing with each other. And when you use both for a certain time and place in your life, like they serve their purpose.
Yeah. Talking also will help you start it is good to identify the emotion, because if you don't actually know what you're feeling and you can't identify it, then you don't understand how to move through it or release it. So talking will sometimes allow the brain to realize it. And then if you can separate yourself from the emotion or the situation or experience, then you step behind it and you realize I am not this. This is separate. It's something that I am experiencing. And an experience is something we are supposed to move through. It is not who we are. So we have to move it. And how do you move it? You don't move it by speaking it. You move it by moving it. So there's definitely steps to it, and everyone's different. Everyone will have a place or work a little differently, and that's what their exploration of like how it fits into your life. But I would say if you haven't worked with movement and somatic healing and other modalities with talking, then try it. That's what I would say.
Somatic breath work, right?
Somatic movement, so feeling into your body, feeling your body, moving your body,
and relating to the emotion,
relating to the mood, your body. And the rhythmic metamorphosis, our method that we created, we go through all of this. We
combine it all. So like, and in like, and at our retreats where we kind of like add the layer of talking and journaling so that you can, because you might not know what you're feeling, but now you start to ask yourself the questions and answer the questions, and you're addressing your beliefs. And now you're transforming these beliefs into empowering beliefs. Like, that's great. But that is surface level. Like, now you have to create that shift in your body because that belief is engraved in your being, and you have to move through that to release that. So that's why we combine breath work, somatic movement, the EFT tapping, the vocal activation, singing, music, active sound healing into one
You girls cracked the code.
thing.
We maybe
try it. Let us know.
I will definitely try it. Of course, I will definitely try it.
We just posted it's like 35-minute rhythmic metamorphosis journey that is specifically for creativity. So whenever you're feeling stuck, blocked in creation, this is a practice that can help unblock you. The music was created specifically to address that and help you move through that, and so is the movement and breath work and everything. So I can't wait to share that with you. And it was definitely made from a place of like to help artists, producers like tap into flow state like very quickly. So yeah, it's there. We'll share it with you, and we'll share it in the show notes for our audience to try it out too. If you just want to get into the flow of your day, like you want your ego to get out of the way, let the control get out of the way, and just surrender and let the water just pour and flow and allow everything that you want to just come to you with ease.
And we also have a membership portal that actually has so many practices and that actually will address very specific emotions, help you identify them and move through them, or just to elevate your mood. We call it a rave in the morning. We do this every morning, whether it's 1 minute or like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, one song, or 30 minutes. That's how we start our day, which is just moving through, because I wake up stiff and tired, or like whatever it is, or heavy sometimes. I'm not going to lie and say I've cracked the code and now I wake up at 100%. No, I wake up and I need to move whatever is stagnant in my body from sleeping and get it up and out, and then then I move on with the day. I used to do yoga every single morning, but I realized that yoga made me feel like Lisa, like in a box sometimes. So I do incorporate some of those movements, but even the way we teach our yoga practices now, when we teach, they're very different and fluid, and not very, very, very strict. But just that it's because we're realizing that we live in a much noisier world than when yoga was created. Yeah. So it's just like adding elements to it that address the noise in our bodies and our breath. Yeah.
I resonate with that. Sometimes I do feel like, yoga is too much in a box. And especially like Ashtanga yoga, which is the strict frequency flow for, flow 1, flow 2, flow 3, for.
Yeah.
But have you ever practiced Kundalini yoga?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that one is very dynamic and changes a lot, and incorporates a little bit of like breath holding and stuff. If you put some tapping in there, and if you're in the middle of a Kundalini yoga session and you put a bowl while they're doing something for their sacral, it could amplify. It's like multiplication. It's exponential. That's what I would say.
Yeah, quantum.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
Well, I feel like we can keep going on
Forever and ever.
about all the healing modalities. But
Oh my goodness, yeah, it's been an
Yeah.
hour and 40 minutes.
We
The
have
longest
almost
one.
an hour over. I feel like this has felt like
Slow
a form
state.
of meditation.
Yeah.
Where time is just dissolving. We've just been witnessing each other and experiencing everyone's energy through this. So it's been such a pleasure and such a validation that flow state is just
exists,
and you tap into it when you're intentional and present. And that's how we began. That was our intention at the beginning of the podcast. So, but before we close this, I'd love for you to share your favorite rave story. And it can be like being on the dance floor, at a festival, a show, or playing, or both.
I can do both.
Of course.
My favorite show I've ever played for was closing for Dub Fire.
Oh wow.
So I was supposed to open, so I didn't like prepare a set, but I put a playlist with 100 tracks to see what happens. And then I got to the club and he's like, yeah, change your plans. Now you close from 2 to 3 after, he's played for 4 hours. So, 4 hours of a hybrid professional world-class DJ, I was very, nervous, and I actually needed to go out for the club, run, take a shower in cold water, and then come back. And when I came back, it was the best show I've ever played, I think. And like Ali, which is Top Fire, gave me a hug. He said, you're doing great. You're talented. Keep doing what you're doing. And I was like, wow. And I actually kept the club open until 5:30, and it was supposed to close at 3. So it was a very I'm gonna eat the success.
That like tapping into that energy, that exchange with the crowd. There's like nothing else like it in the whole world. It's amazing.
And I was just playing what I wanted to, and not actually like trying to get them dance. Just okay, the Fire makes this music. I'll try to tailor a little bit to that, and that's actually a lot what I do. So it was amazing. And actually, this weekend in Miami, a guy just came up to me and said, "Hey, you're a DJ, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, thank you. Do you remember me or something?" He's like, "Yeah, you closed for Dubfire once 3 years ago." And I was like, "What? You remember?" He's like, "Yeah, it was a great set," and it was very validating. A moment of self-love there.
Yeah, amazing. And your favorite in the crowd?
I fell in love in a festival, so yeah, that was just I don't even know how to explain the feelings I had, just like meeting what I think is either a twin flame or a soulmate in the crowd. You're dancing, you just open your eyes and you see that they're looking at you, talking, like teasing, and just falling in love in the dance floor. That was beautiful.
Yeah.
I feel like I was like just pulled into that moment and there with you. That's beautiful.
Yeah, it was very, very memorable for sure.
Thank you so much for sharing your heart, your art. It means so much to us to be able to be in this space with you and share it with the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for having me. I definitely had great time talking to you girls. Your girls are full of knowledge, very connected to the source, and it's always beautiful to be able to be vulnerable and exchange experiences, exchange feelings and ways of self-help, of self-healing through sound as well. I'm grateful for being here, and I would love to. I'm gonna start doing the rhythmic metamorphosis workouts. Yeah, I need it.
Yes,
Yes. Waving every day.
Nice.
Will you
I'll do it.
share where our audience can find your music, connect with you?
Yeah, I am. So as I was speaking earlier, 94 of the tracks are private. So I'm still, working to hear them in different car systems and houses and speakers until they sound what I think is good enough.
Yeah.
But just everything will be released through Spotify, Apple Music, Beatport if you want to support the art, and in SoundCloud you'll find a bunch of sets as well. I am starting a vinyl only YouTube channel, so just like our sets and stuff. So also you'll find it there. That will be all. You can find everything through Instagram. There's a link tree where you can find everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much. And
That's beautiful.